welcome again. Thank you for coming and thank you for watching, whether you're watching tonight or at another time. We are very pleased and excited to have Tim Overweg come from Link Bloomston. Tim is the Director of Donor Engagement at Link Bloomston Foundation. He's been with them for 7 years. He's pastored churches in Nebraska, California, and Minnesota. And I have a hunch he's going to tell you about being a Viking fan and something about Green Bay, but we'll leave that go. You're here tonight to listen to a talk called Aging Boldly. And aging boldly is not something we think about. We think of aging as diminishment, aging as losses. And it does not have to be that way. Aging can be a time of growth. It can show us different opportunities so we can expand our horizons. And Tim is here to tell his story, tell some of the story also about Link Bloomston as to how we can age and expand our territory. So, introducing Tim. Come right up, Tim. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I want to begin this evening by thank you. This feels so good to take this thing off. I want to start by introducing you to an older gentleman that was a really important part of my life when I was just a lad. And what I remember about this particular individual is he was just always happy, always very kind, always seemed to be engaged in something with life, always something going on. And that man was my grandfather. And there's a picture of him there you can see. And along with my grandmother, they had this really rich, wonderful life. I mean, together they loved to go to their garden, they loved to hang out with their friends, they would go out to eat, they did a bit of traveling, they loved their faith community. And one of the things that they enjoyed probably more than anything else was sitting with their grandchildren at the kitchen table and playing board games with them. And I remember as a kid learning the intricacies and the strategies of a board game called Sorry. How many people remember that? and a card game called Rook. Anybody ever play Rook? Well, they would love just teaching us these things. And then when my grandmother passed away, what she left was a really lonely man. He was lonely for a couple of reasons. Number one, he just missed this woman that he had spent almost his entire life doing just about everything with. He just missed her. And the second reason was, at that time, no one was aware of any place in the community that someone like him could go and engage in all the activities and all the experiences that he was used to doing and do them with someone like himself, just like him. Nobody knew of any place like that. And so as a result, our family watched my grandfather fade into this man who was just less and less active and more isolated. And if you would look at him, you would say, well, that's a healthy guy. He's still mobile. He's still able to get around. You would say that he was just fine. But the reality was, in his spirit, he wasn't fine. And that leads us to a myth. The myth is that as long as an older adult is physically mobile and able to get around, that they're healthy. But that's just not true. See, despite an older adult's physical abilities to get around, they can still be at risk to the adverse effects of loneliness and isolation. And do you know that there are dozens of studies right now that link the adverse effects of loneliness on an older adult to the adverse effects of smoking as many as 15 cigarettes a day? That the health effects are just about the same. There's lots of studies that will support that. So loneliness for an older adult is simply not good for their health. Loneliness for them is costly as well. Medicare says that they'll spend an additional $6.7 billion on illnesses for older adults related to isolation and loneliness. So it's unhealthy, it's costly, and it also is widespread. Vivek Murthy, who was a former Surgeon General for the United States, who was a practicing physician, said this. He said, "In all my years of seeing patients, the most common pathology that I saw was not heart disease, was not diabetes, but the most common pathology I saw was loneliness." You see, for many older adults, isolation and loneliness have just been part of their routine for a long time. But now we have this new problem. I was watching the news just a couple nights ago, and I heard about this thing called COVID-19. We've all heard of it, huh? See, now COVID-19 has impacted the way that human beings get to be with other human beings. It makes it much more difficult to combat that isolation and that loneliness if that's a place that someone is finding themselves in anyway. So we've got this new problem. But tonight I'm really excited to tell you about an organization that is still committed to seeing that older adults engage, discover, and thrive, even in the midst of this mess that we're in. I'm going to tell you about a place that is fully committed to these three propositions. But before we go any further, I need to introduce myself. Jim did just a little bit there. I first of all want to say thank you for inviting me, and welcome to those of you who took the chance to be here, and also to those that might be watching online. And I owe a huge, huge thanks to Barbara Nichols, and to Deacon Jim, and to Mike Griefer, because they worked very hard to set this up, and I'm really grateful to them. And as Jim said, my name is Tim Overweg. I'm the Director of Donor Engagement for the Ling-Blumsen Foundation. I have one of my colleagues here tonight sitting there, Carolyn Claver. Carolyn's going to share just a little bit about one piece of this that I think you'll find very innovative and exciting. She'll do that just a little bit later. But Ling-Blumsen, you've probably all heard of it. You might be very familiar with it. You might not know about us at all. But a good reminder, Ling-Blumsen is a nonprofit. It's 114 years old. It's located in the Como Park neighborhood of St. Paul, and it is dedicated to the care of older adults and their families. So that's the mission and the vision of Ling-Blumsen, to preserve and enhance the quality of life for older adults. The Ling-Blumsen Foundation is the piece of Ling-Blumsen that's responsible for making sure that the necessary resources are there to provide for the best possible life for older adults. And not just those adults that are living on our campus in Como Park, but to those adults who are still living in their own homes out in the neighborhoods and the communities that surround us. 40 years ago, Ling Bloomston made the commitment to deliver staff and services and resources and support, and as much as they could, all the necessary things to older adults living in their neighborhoods and communities so that they could age well. Now, why would we make that commitment? Why would we take that huge endeavor on? Well, how many of you woke up this morning and said, I cannot wait until I have to move out of my own home and move into an assisted living? Now, even better, I want to move into a care center. Anybody ever said that? Of course not. All of us, as we age, want to be able to stay in the place that we love, in our own homes, in our own neighborhoods, in our own communities. And as nice and as caring and as joyful as Ling Bloomston is, and many other places, no one wants that. Home is where we want to be able to stay. So tonight, I want to spend our time looking at the work that Ling Bloomston is doing in our neighborhoods, in our communities where older adults live. And the piece that I want to share tonight is something called Second Half with Ling Bloomston. So what is Second Half with Ling Bloomston? Well, it's based out of two centers. One is on our campus over there in Como Park. The other is based out of Redeemer Lutheran in White Bear Lake. And it is a center for enriching lives after 50. Now, if we're talking about the second half of life, what does that tell us about how long people are living now? If you picked up the latest edition of the Ling Bloomston Lifestyle that just came out, what you will find on the front of that is a picture of one of our dear residents who's 103 and just recovered from COVID-19. So a center for enriching lives after 50. What do we want to see happen? Well, we want to make sure that socialization is going on to reduce isolation and loneliness. We want to make sure that people are always learning, always have that opportunity to be engaged in some sort of learning. We want to promote health and wellness, keep people healthy. We all know that transitions happen as we get older, so we want to be able to help folks manage and provide support during those transitions. We know that resources and support are important for older adults. We want to help them access those and navigate those, because sometimes that can seem kind of daunting, or you may not even know what is available and what's out there. And we want to help older adults remain as independent for as long as they possibly can. And oh, what a difference Second Half with Ling Bloomston was making. We had hundreds, literally hundreds of older adults and their families coming together in these places and experiencing art and music and eating together and travel and respite and resources and support and education and time with a nurse or a caseworker, volunteer opportunities. All kinds of wonderful things were going on. It was so exciting. And then COVID hit. And now we had to pivot. I didn't bring it with me, but we have a catalog that's in paper and online. The last printed catalog we made was for the first quarter of 2020, January, February, March. And if you had one of those, or you saw one of those, and you opened it up to the table of contents, what you would have found in that catalog for the first quarter of this year were over 60 unique opportunities for older adults to help them engage, come together, learn, stay healthy, socialize, do all these things together. Just in that one quarter, there was over 60 of those opportunities available. But now what do we do? Now, second half with Ling Bloomston had to figure out ways to continue to serve older adults in ways that were engaging, that were joyful, that were keeping people connected, and above all, that were safe. And as we began that work, we discovered a few things. First of all, we discovered that some of our older folks were very creative in the way that they were handling safety. See, that's Jim right there, actually. You can't see that, but we also discovered that some of our older folks were very resilient and were making the best of things. Hello to all my family. I'm keeping busy watching TV and eating my cookies. I love you. Please don't worry about me. I leave everything up to Jesus. Love, Dad. Cookies and Jesus. What more could you want? We also discovered something called Zoom, a new way to have meetings together. But you know what? I don't know what's so fantastic about Zoom. It's been around for a really long time. It was around when I was a kid. We could probably all sing the song, huh? Here's a story of a lovely lady. Blah, blah, blah. We all know that. Zoom's been around for a long time. Love that show. We can say that kind of tongue-in-cheek. Of course, we had to accept the fact that shutting down all of these experiences and opportunities that were face-to-face, that drew people together, to shut those down was going to be hugely disappointing. And it was going to cause a huge impact. But we also know that we could not be paralyzed by that. We knew that we had to do the very best that we could. And so we set about designing ways to serve older adults using technology. Some of those technologies are tried and true. Telephone, it's a wonderful tool. Email, the technology like Zoom, which is coming into its own. And so we set about figuring out how do we use these tools to keep older adults engaged and learning and connected in this time of really great difficulty. So I struggle with how do I share what's going on now that we're using this technology. And I thought, well, probably the best way that I can do that is to just take you to the newly revamped website for second half of Ling Bloomston and give you some examples of what we're doing and what's still happening. So there's this registration page, and I would encourage you to visit sometime this week and just peruse it and see what's going on. It's a registration page with lots of information, and I couldn't get the whole thing in there, but it's kind of the start. It's the portal into all the wonderful things that are still going on. Every month, there's an e-newsletter that's sent out, and this newsletter is sent out to over 1,000 people who are engaged in second half with Ling Bloomston, and it tells them everything that's going on for that month. The example I have here is of October. The November one just came out. So everybody gets this via email, and it fills them in on all the different things that are happening. It gives them this at-a-glance page of what's going on, just at a glance, and then someone can go from there if there's something that they're particularly interested in, and they can go from there. But as you'll see, we have a section on education and the arts, a section on social and outings, health, wellness, and spirituality, and then resources and support. And resources and support has turned into a huge part of what second half with Ling Bloomston is doing now, and especially around caregiver resources. And Carolyn will speak to just one of those in just a little bit. So, education in the arts. We have one of the activities we offer is called Books, Cheese, and Wine. Now, it's not like we could be together and pour everybody a glass of wine and set out the tray of cheese, so we encourage people in their own homes, get your cheese tray or your hummus or whatever it is you like, pour yourself a glass of wine or a beer or a pop or whatever it is, and engage virtually. This one is on Darkness in Paradise, and it talks about this author, who's also on the Zoom, talks about the book that she wrote, about her husband's exploits during World War II in Indonesia. She's part of it. She's sharing the story. She's talking about her book. People are engaged in it. They're asking questions, and they're just having a great time together virtually, but still connecting with each other. So books, wine, and cheese, and that's just an example of some of the things that are going on in education and the arts. Socials and outings. This is a 6-week series that's going on called Can We Talk? And it's people either on Zoom or on the phone get together, and it's kind of an open forum to talk about things that are going on in life, difficulties they're having, things that need to be overcome. Where can I find this? Here's what's going on with this situation in my life. But it's an opportunity for people to connect with other like-minded folks and talk about their joys and their sorrows and all the different things going on. But it's 6 weeks in nature for people to connect. Health, wellness, and spirituality. For October, everything was built around nature's healing connections. We were obviously in fall. Lots of color and beauty connected around fall. This was presented by a board-certified health and wellness coach and a nature lover, and she put together those 3 sessions dealing with nature, how to engage with it, what it tells us, how it can heal us, how we can be involved in it, and helping people just still be able to celebrate the things that are going on outside of us, outside of the places that we are, and how to still stay connected with nature. Health, wellness, and spirituality continues to be an important part in these times. And resources and support. And again, this has turned into a really integral part of what Second Half with Ling Bloomson is doing, because it feels like people just need to be able to find a place to be supported and cared for and go through some of the things that they are going through. So under this, we have memory loss caregivers support groups. We have just general caregiver support groups for someone who may be giving care to someone with something else other than memory loss. We have caregiver coaching. It's called REACH, that someone can sign up for and say, I need help learning how to be, just how to deal with caregiving and how to take care of myself. There's telephone support, just being able to call somebody and saying, I just need to talk through this with someone. This is what's going on. How do I handle it? How can I get some help? And then they can sign up for daily emails with suggestions about things to do. And that would include hands-on art activities, music activities, different things that they can do. We also just finished, just this past week, we did an older adult ministry forum. It was led by a man named Ted Bowman, and it was called Ambiguous Loss in the Time of COVID-19. And he talked about all the losses that go on naturally in our lives, but how COVID-19 has compounded those things. And the things that we probably are not even taking time to recognize the loss that is going on, and how this pandemic has taken those things and escalated them. And how do we deal with those? How do we sustain ourselves through those? It was a wonderful talk. And so these are just a very brief overview of things that we're doing using this technology. And one of the things that I didn't share, but I'm going to ask Carolyn to share, is around a program we are doing called E-Respite. Carolyn is very involved in that, and I'd like her to just take a few minutes and share some really exciting things about a very innovative and unique work that's going on. So Carolyn, thank you.
I have to tell you, it's such a joy to be here. I almost was a little bit giddy walking in because this is the first group that I've been able to be with since the COVID restrictions. All of my work has been done remotely with caregivers, and with the gathering being suspended through this time, which was a group respite for people with dementia, and we did a variety of activities for 5 hours. But what we're doing now, since we can't do that, is we're using what we've learned over the past 15 years of working with that program, plus the 5 years prior to that, and figured out how can we use Zoom to cognitively stimulate, to help socialize, and to help build a community over Zoom for our people with dementia. And how can we, this is different than respite through the gathering, where they could drop the person off for 5 hours. This is a 1 hour respite in their home. So the caregiver has to be around somewhere, but they get that 1 hour to have a pause where we're doing a variety of activities. We're doing a time of socializing. We again, get a little tearful when we get together. It's so beautiful to come together every week to our group. I had some families who hesitated to do it because they said, family Zoom sessions weren't working, so I don't think this will work. I said, give it a try, because we're different. We're intentionally asking everybody's input in this. We're facilitating for the people with memory loss. We're trying to work their brain. And one of our gentlemen is aphasic. He has a hard time pulling words out. He knows what he wants to say. He has a difficult time getting it out. But we're providing space for him to say. And if you could hear the stories that he is able to come up with based on a picture, you'd be amazed. And his wife said the first time, I can't believe it. This is the most I've heard him talk in an hour. He's hardly said much of anything in the last months. So Andrea and I know what we're doing. She's got a degree in psychology and a master's degree in therapeutic recreation and has worked with many artists. I have done 15 years of just dementia work and have had 3 parents with dementia. And with that, we're running these groups of up to 5 people for an hour. Each of them is 1 day a week, so we have 17 people that we serve. And we've got some other things in the works, but this has in fact proven to be something that we hope to continue even when COVID's over, because it's a very unique opportunity for those that have a harder time leaving their home. Thank you, Tim.
I watched an example of E-Respite and watched them sing and tell stories and laugh and wonder where the other person was and how to get a hold of them. And I thought about how special for the caregiver that's in that home just to have that little break, because caregiving certainly is a labor of love, but it's labor and it's hard. And now when you can't even get out, it just compounds it. So we're so grateful to Carolyn for doing our E-Respite program. So there's a lot going on, still going on with Second Half with Ling Bloomston. And we're not the only group that had to rethink ways to do ministry. We're not the only group that had to think about how do we continue to do what we do. We also recognize that it's simply just not possible to deliver the breadth and depth of things that were going on, and to continue to deliver at that level in this current situation with the pandemic. That's just not possible. We're all looking forward to the time when we can be together again, when we can be in the same room, when we can shake hands and hug and give a pat on the back, and we don't have to worry about this pandemic. But in the meantime, our call is to continue to provide older adults with as much engagement and joy and positive things and connection as much as possible. And you know, if there's any silver lining in all of this, what we've learned is that there's technology now that will allow us to stay connected, and that many older adults do find a tremendous amount of value and benefit in it. We've always had people, and in particular older adults, who found themselves isolated and alone, and now we have this tool that we know can work. Not for everyone, of course, but we know it can work for many people. And we're so glad that we can have it, and we're very confident that this tool called technology is going to continue to be a part of what we do, even moving forward, even when we can come back together, because there will still be people that can benefit from that, even when the pandemic is over. So this is really, really important work, and it's especially at this time in our world. And so second half of Ling Bloomston is still connecting people, it's still engaging people, it's still providing resources and support and respite. It's become a breath of hope for many people who thought that they were just going to be trapped in their homes and not be able to connect in any way. And those are all really important. But I believe that there's an even deeper need that second half with Ling Bloomston is meeting. And that is, we do not have to fear growing old. We want to replace that fear with this authentic boldness that views the second half of life with great anticipation. That's what we want to share. But here's the rub. That message of growing old with anticipation is not a message that's being communicated very much in today's world. Let's think for a moment about some of that messaging. I was in Walmart looking for a greeting card. And you know, you tend to stop and just pick different ones up and look at it. And do this next time. Let's take a look at this greeting card that I found. This is a screenshot that I took of a greeting card. Retirement age protest. So this is very appropriate for today's world, isn't it? What do we want? Why did we come here? What were we saying? Here's another card. Remember when we referred to our knees as left and right rather than good and bad? Yes. Happy days. Scour the greeting cards once and take a look at the messages that it's sending about older adults in today's world. I'm sure that you've seen this ad. This is on the back of the AARP magazine, Life Alert. You've probably all seen this. It's got a picture of, oh my God, he's having a heart attack. Another woman has fallen on the steps. Someone's in the shower or fallen in the park. You know, the whole help, I've fallen and I can't get up. Who are the adults who are the people in every one of these pictures? You can answer that question. Some old person, isn't it? Now, you know what? This kind of stuff can happen to anybody at any time. It could happen to a child coming up on these stairs and falling. It could happen to anybody. But who do they choose intentionally to put on these advertisements? Old folks. Have you ever seen the the Geico ad of Grandpa who fell asleep in the chair and his nose started whistling Flight of the Bumblebee? And everybody's making fun of him and laughing and all this kind of stuff? Here's a Facebook post that I found just a couple days ago. It was sent to me by my cousin. For sale, 4 surveillance cameras, older model. Who's in the picture? I've got an ad that I want to show you. I have to walk over here to the computer. Bear with me, and I'll show it to you.
TCF free checking is free and hassle-free.
Breaking news. Meteor now threatens to destroy the entire global avocado crop.
Because life can be one hassle.
Just in, avocados now safe. Prunes now in jeopardy.
After another. TCF free checking and new digital banking. TCF, open yours today.
Who comes running in when it's avocados that are going to be in short supply? Young, athletic, good-looking people. Who comes running in when prunes may be in short supply? What is the message that is being sent? When you get old, your knees go bad, you forget, you're nosy, you're constipated, and you have to eat prunes. The message is there is nothing to look forward to in growing old. And that's just not true. That's not true at all. See, those of us at Second Half, we want to spark a different way of looking at this second half of life. Something that says, you know what? Life has an awful lot to offer me yet, and I have an awful lot to offer to this world. That's the message that we want to send. We want to disabuse all these stereotypes. We want to help people be secure in their age, whatever that is. And we want them to know that growing old doesn't automatically mean sitting down, settling in, and wearing out. Doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to mean that at all. And that's the message that we want to send. So you may say, well, Tim, that's great, but really, why is this important to me sitting here today? There's 3 reasons. Number one, the numbers tell us that it's important. This is a graph from 2012 to 2030. The arrow shows us that we're in 2020, soon to be 2021. But in that span of years, from 2012 to 2030, in the United States, every day of every one of those years, 10,000 people turn 65. Not every week, not every month, every day during that entire span, 10,000 people turn 65. And you can see how the trajectory keeps going up and up and up. The numbers tell us that this is really important work. Number 2, we're all in that demographic. I'm in it. And so it means as I continue to age, as you continue to age, access to resources and support that we may need to age well and to stay in the places that we love, access to those people who understand our needs. Man, those are going to be so important for us, and that importance is going to grow every day. Third reason, we're in this together. We're in this together. Taking care of human beings can only be done by another human being. And so we're all in that demographic that is charged with the responsibility of caring for each other, and especially for those who may face some vulnerabilities, who may need some unique help or some unique support or some unique encouragement to just keep going. And so helping people like this, man, it has a lot of challenges. It's hard work, and we certainly can't just ignore those challenges. But boy, with every challenge, there is an opportunity. And Second Half with Ling Bloomson has a wonderful opportunity to help society as a whole see the value of older people. Just to see the value in what they offer and what they bring, and to help us all see that growing old should be a season of life that is filled with choice and fulfillment and joy and connection and all those things that make me want to get up every morning. And so this work, this thing we call Second Half with Ling Bloomson, it was born out of what I think is some very creative thinking. I don't know that you're going to find another place right now that was doing all we do and was able to shift to what we're doing, and will go back to even greater things of engaging more and more older adults in these ways. I don't know if there is a place that was very creative, but it was also born out of great need, as you see that chart right there. Great need. And great needs take what? Great needs take great people to participate. And so Second Half of Ling Bloomson, we need supporters. We need advocates. We need ambassadors. And here's why I have to step back and just say thank you. Thanks to St. Odilia's for what you're already doing. Man, you guys are leading the pack. You've become a dementia-friendly congregation and offering worship to those living with dementia. That just vaults you to the front of the race. You're already supporting our work with the Gathering by being part of the North Central Consortium for the Gathering, supporting all that's going on with the Gathering, delivering respite to all those caregivers. And then you give me an opportunity like this to come here. You come out on a night wearing your masks and you're already doing so much. Thank you. But we need more people to tell this story and more people to hear this story. And so now that you've heard the story, what is it that maybe you can do? Let's think about that for just a minute. Maybe you know a local business or an organization or a book club or a civic organization or whatever that you think, or a faith community that you think should hear this story. Man, introduce me to them. If you haven't liked what I've said tonight, don't introduce me to them. But if you'd enjoyed it, I would love to talk to them. Doesn't mean we can make it happen, but we certainly can try. We made this happen. I would love to be introduced to people that you know that maybe could help us share the story with their group, wherever that may be. Let's try to figure that out. Maybe you know someone that could benefit from Second Half with Ling Bloomson. You've got a family, a loved one, a neighbor, a friend who you going, man, I'm worried about them. Can I talk to someone at Second Half of Linglumston and find out how I can support them? What's available for them? Let's take care of them. See what might be possible for someone that you're concerned about. Direct them toward us. Maybe you're going to go to the website and you go, man, in November, I could do that. I need that. I would encourage you, if you're finding some need in your life, some lack, boy, let us try to partner with you. Partner with you to meet that need, to discover something that we can do together to help us all grow old better. Maybe you can make a donation. This takes a lot of effort, a lot of time, takes a lot of money. There's just no doubt about it. We might as well be real. We need people to support us financially to make this happen. And we want to be poised when the pandemic goes away. That meant we can jump into the future and we can do ministry beyond our wildest dreams because we've got the need and the opportunity and the resources to do that. Maybe you just have a question. I'm going to hang around for a few minutes after this. Carolyn's going to hang around for a few minutes. We would love to talk with you. We would love to hear your questions. We'd love to give you a business card and that you can call us or you can email us or we can do a Zoom meeting together with you to connect if you have a question or there's something that we can do for you. I'm going to end tonight with a quote by a woman named Frances Lear. You may recognize her husband, Norman Lear, who was a television producer back in the 70s. But Frances Lear was a writer and a publisher, and she said this. She said, I believe that the second half of one's life is meant to be better than the first. The first half is finding out how to do it. The second half is enjoying it. Discovering how to do it is the first half. The second half, it's all about enjoying it. It's all about taking what we've learned and what we know and the gifts we've been given and the struggles we've gone through and the successes we've had and putting it all together and enjoying this piece of life that God has given us. I'm really grateful that you allowed me tonight to step, at least to put a toe into the world of St. Odelia, to step into your world. I invite you now to step into the world of Second Half with Linglumston. And let's see if we can't together make this world a better place for those older adults and to give them the best life possible. So thank you. God bless you. Be well, be safe, and have a wonderful evening.
Are there any questions from anyone who's present that they might have for Tim or for Carolyn? I know. Oh, yes. Hang on. Let's suit up here.
Thank you. Tim, is there an age group that you're trying to capture? I mean, we always talk about the second half, but, you know, I always think that the second half is over 50. Are you trying to capture people that are in their 50s with second?
Well, you know, we say 50 and over because we know that's where the majority of our folks are going to be. Nobody gets turned away. We do have a lot of people that are still working, still doing the things, but a lot of them come with, or they're supporting an older parent, and so that work is still connecting with both a child or a loved one or a friend and that older adult. But honestly, if you looked at one of those things, because I'm sure you're, 38, 37? if you wanted to participate in something, there'd be no reason that you couldn't. But again, we say 50 and older just because we know that's, again, 50 is not old, but again, we didn't want to exclude anybody that could face any special circumstances or that had a parent that wanted to be involved. So Carolyn, maybe you can, you're involved in it day to day.
So are you able to hear me okay, or do I need to hold? Okay. So what I would tell you is keep in mind with our dementia specialty at Second Half, we have people in their 40s with dementia. And I will tell you also, there's so many classes that I would like to take, but I don't have the opportunity while I'm working full-time. But some people will find a grandchild to take dad to a speaker on Norman Rockwell because that's his favorite. So do you see how intergenerationally there still is opportunity? We want it to not be known as just a senior center, because I think sometimes we can look at that differently. We're saying, hey, in the second half of your life, get involved, and the opportunities really have been endless. They've really been wonderful. Did that help?
Anybody else? Any other questions?
I do have a business card. Carolyn has some if you'd like to grab one because you'd like to talk about something more privately. Boy, just find me or her and give a card, and our phones work. Our email works. We would love to talk with you if that's something you would ever like to do.
We want to thank Tim and Carolyn for their information. And hopefully that can inspire us as we continue on. I think we should end with a short prayer. Let's just thank God for older people. Thank God for younger people that help older people. We just ask for your blessings on all of us, especially in this very difficult time. Help us use the gifts that you've given us to expand our territory, to use those gifts to benefit each other so we can share the good things that we already possess with those that just need a little bit of help. So Lord, thank you for your blessings, your graces, and your mercies, and we just ask you to continue to be with us, walk with us through these difficult times, and we thank you. We thank you for all you do. Help us to continue strong. For this we pray, through Christ our Lord. Amen. Thanks, everybody. Be good. Be safe.